Good afternoon, dear grade 12 students, dear teachers, dear everyone watching us at the moment. It is my pleasure to introduce my colleagues in the studio. Miss Ula Al-Mou'i, English Language Supervisor, Tartus Directorate. Good afternoon, Miss Ula.
Good afternoon, sir.
And Miss Nagam Al-Muhammad, English Language Teacher, Tartus Directorate. Good afternoon, Miss Ula. Miss Nagam, sorry.
Okay, good afternoon.
And this is me, Abdul Majid Ogorli, Senior Supervisor and Coordinator of English Language. Dear students, we're going now to have a seminar on Unit 6, Literary Section. Of course, we hope you are doing well in your exams. We're going to do our best so that you get benefit from what we are going to present. As you know, our new series is MR series. Unit 6 is going to start with listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Then we're going to have grammar and pronunciation, vocabulary, then everyday English. We're going to start with the listening as a beginning, since listening is the most important, in my opinion at least, most important skill to be taught. We're going to listen to an audio. You have two questions. The first time we're going to answer what is the audio about, then we're going to listen a second time, then we're going to answer some questions. Let's listen a first time.
The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, or UNCRC, is the basis of all of the UNICEF's work. It is the most complete statement of children's rights ever produced and is the most widely ratified international human rights treaty in history. Under the convention, a child is any person under the age of 18. All children have all these rights, no matter who they are, where they live, what language they speak, what their religion is, what they think, what they look like, if they are a boy or girl, if they have a disability, if they are rich or poor, and no matter who their parents or families are, or what their parents or families believe or do. No child should be treated unfairly for any reason. Governments must do all they can to make sure that every child in their countries can enjoy all the rights in this convention.
Well, we listened the first time. The first question was, what is it about? It is about
children's right, child's right.
Thank you, Ms. Sauda.
That they have the right to be safe, they have the right to learn, they have the right to play, different rights.
You're giving more details, thank you. Now we're going to listen a second time for details. And after we listen a second time, we're going to answer questions about the audio again. Listen again.
The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, all of the UNICEF's work. It is the most complete statement of children's rights ever produced and is the most widely ratified international human rights treaty in history. Under the convention, a child is any person under the age of 18. All children have all these rights, no matter who they are, where they live, what language they speak, what their religion is, what they think, what they look like, if they are a boy or girl, if they have a disability, if they are rich or poor, and no matter who their parents or families are, or what their parents or families believe or do. No child should be treated unfairly for any reason. Governments must do all they can to make sure that every child in their countries can enjoy all the rights in this convention.
Well, now let's have a look at the questions. Question number one, all statements are going to be answered true or false. Number one, Ms. Ula, please.
Yes. Not all children have the same rights. Of course, this is false.
False.
Because all children have the same rights.
Ms. Nagam, second
Number
question.
2, the convention is widely spread. This is true.
True. Ms. Ula, number 3.
Yes, a child is any person over the age of 18. This is false, of course. He's under the age of 18.
Yes, under the age of 18. Thank you. Number 4, Ms. Nagam.
The language a child speaks determines his rights. This is false. Because he has his rights wherever he is, or it doesn't matter what nation he is or what language he speaks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now all children should be treated fairly. Of course, this is true and should be accomplished.
Well, now we should move to a speaking stage. Speaking, usually either we have conversation in the listening, we ask the students to do a similar one,
Role model maybe.
or we can show them a picture and we ask them to talk about what is going in the picture, or we can give them a situation and ask the students individually or in groups or in pairs to talk. Speaking is as important as listening, but it comes second. Now, we move to reading History of the United Nations. I'm going to read, yes, History of the United Nations. The United Nations was established by the Charter of the United Nations and Statute of the International Court of Justice. The Charter was signed on the 26th of June 1945 by the representatives of 50 countries including Syria. Poland signed on the 15th of October 1945. There were 51 founding members in 1945. The United Nations officially came into existence on October the 24th, 1945. After ratification of the Charter, the day is now celebrated each year around the world as United Nations Day. The Security Council contains 5 permanent members: China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms by the General Assembly. The United Nations was the second multi-purpose international organization established in the 20th century that was worldwide in scope and membership. Its predecessor, the League of Nations, was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and disbanded in 1946. The UN also has regional offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. Its official languages are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. At the beginning of the 21st century, the UN and its programs and affiliated agencies struggled to address humanitarian crises and civil wars, unprecedented refugee flows, the devastation caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions, international terrorism, and the disparities in wealth between the world's richest and poorest peoples. The aims of the United Nations. Ms. Ola, will you please continue?
Yes. The aims of the United Nations are to keep peace throughout the world, this is one, to develop friendly relations with nations, to help nations work together to improve the lives of poor people, to conquer hunger, disease, illiteracy, and to encourage respect for each other's rights and freedoms. And the last one, to be a center for helping nations achieve these aims.
Thank you so much. We move to the principles of the United Nations with Ms. Nagam, please.
Okay, the principles of the United Nations. All member states have sovereign equality. All member states must obey the Charter. Countries must try to settle their differences by peaceful means. Countries must avoid using force or threatening to use force. The UN may not interfere in the domestic affairs of any country. Countries should try to assist the United Nations.
Thank you. Usually, in class, it would be better for teachers to show the questions about the text before the teacher asks the students to read the questions. But since we have slides, we're going to answer so that we don't mention them twice before the text and after text, or so that I don't go in trouble to go up and down randomly.
Okay. Okay.
We mention them in the following slide. We're going to move to the questions now. Question number 1,
Okay,
it's up to you, Ms. Ola, either to answer immediately or to wait until we read the questions and answer, as you like.
I don't mind any of them.
Well,
we
so
can-
read the question and
Yes.
answer it, then Ms. Naram reads the second question
Yes,
and
why not?
answers it, and so on.
Okay, so the first question is, how was the United Nations created?
Mine? Okay. The United Nations was established by the Charter of the United Nations and a Statute of the International Court of Justice.
Thank you so much.
And the
So
second
you're going
question-
to read the question and she will
Oh,
answer
she
it.
can read the second question.
Okay, read the second question and Ms. Ola is going to answer it, please.
Okay. Which countries are the permanent members of the Security Council?
Well, we have 5 permanent members. They are China, France, Russia, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
Thank you so much. The following question, Ms. Ola.
Yes, the following question is, when was the League of Nations established?
The League of Nations was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and disbanded in 1946. Of course, it was established after the First World War.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you so much. You have a historical background. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Will you
And
please
number
read the
4.
following question?
Okay, what was the main purpose of the United Nations at the beginning of the 21st century?
Okay, it was to address humanitarian crises and civil wars, unprecedented refugees flows, the devastation caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions, international terrorism, and disparities in wealth between the world's richest and poorest peoples.
Actually, I made you pronounce it wrongly because I had the
Okay.
same mistake at the beginning. We all make mistakes. We are human in the end.
Okay,
Thank you.
but because I have faith in you, so.
Will you please read the following question?
The following question, yes, sorry. Number 5, mention 3 principles of the UN. You have just
Of
mentioned
course,
them.
we don't need to mention them. They are mentioned in the book, and students can choose any of them.
Yeah. Oh.
They are
think we-
equality, to obey the
Yes.
charter,
Answers valid.
differences,
Okay.
etc.
Now we have a question for the students. This can be a speaking question.
This
In your
varies.
opinion, does the UN play a moral role in the world, and how? It's a big question.
Especially for students.
Especially for students. For me, I don't know if I can answer or not. Anyway, we are going to move to the following
From the
slide.
activity book.
The UNICEF workbook. So we are going to cover 2 reading texts,
Yes.
one from the student's book and one from the activity book. It is the UNICEF. I didn't know that it was going to be that size. I don't want to wear my glasses. I will try my best to read, although it's vague for me.
Can just highlight the main points, the main ideas,
UNICEF, allow me to read it.
please.
Okay.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, originally known as the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, is responsible for providing humanitarian and developmental aid to children worldwide, and it has won the Nobel Prize, the first to be awarded to an organization. Despite being highly active in fundraising, awareness, relief work, and research, very few people know the origin of the organization. UNICEF is supported entirely by the voluntary contributions of governments, non-governmental organizations, foundations, corporations, and private individuals, and receives no funding from the assist due of the United Nations. Most of the fundraising is done by UNICEF's 36 national committees, the voluntary support of millions of people around the world, partners in government, civil society, and the private sector. UNICEF was created in 1946 and began with a definite mission of providing emergency food and health care to children in the countries that had been destroyed by World War II. In 1953, its original name was changed to the United Nations Children Fund to reflect its broader mission, but it retained the original acronym after being officially adopted as a permanent branch of the UN in 1954. The agency is among the most widespread and recognizable social welfare organizations in the world, though its headquarters are in New York City. It operates in over 190 countries, focusing on the welfare of children in at-risk areas. Since 2006, the organization has concentrated on a few specific issues: child survivor and development, basic education and gender equality, child protection and policy advocacy, and partnerships. UNICEF has been a key player in Global 49 development work since its beginning. UNICEF operates during emergencies in addition to supporting developing countries to provide children with basic resources and advocate for their rights. At last, UNICEF is working to create a world in which no child is ever bought or sold, stolen from a family, or otherwise victimized. UNICEF believes that every child deserves to grow up in a loving family, and it supports inter-country adoption conducted ethically in accordance with prevailing law and best practices. At the same time, UNICEF works to support families in need so that no one ever feels forced by poverty or insecurity to give up a child. We move to the questions.
Okay.
Miss Ola.
The first one, what does the acronym UNICEF stand for? Acronyms, it means when we have the first lines of a very long phrase, for example. So it stands for the United Nations Children's Fund.
Yes. Miss Nagam.
Where does UNICEF get its funding? Most of the fundraising is done by UNICEF's 36 national committees, the voluntary support of millions of people around the world, partners in government, civil society, and the private sector.
Thank you. The following question, yes.
Mention two purposes of establishing UNICEF. Well, it was created in 1946 and began with the definite mission of providing emergency food and health care to children in the countries that had been destroyed by World War II.
Thank you. Ms. Nagam?
Okay, question 4. Why did UNICEF change its name? It changed its name to reflect its broader mission.
Yes.
Now, with the broader mission, we have main goals. It's working to create a world in which no child is ever bought or sold, stolen from family, or otherwise victimized. UNICEF believes that every child deserves to grow up in a loving family, and it supports inter-country adoption when conducted ethically in accordance with prevailing law and best practice. At the same time, UNICEF works to support families in need so that no one ever feels forced by poverty or insecurity to give up a child.
Thank you. The following question is: match these definitions with the highlighted words in the text. This is vocabulary exercise. Usually, we advise teachers to do it as we're doing it now, not before the text. A lot of teachers ask me, isn't it more easy or easier to make the students familiar with the new words than to read the text? In my opinion, I say no, because sometimes I can elicit the meaning of a word when I know
Content.
5 or 4 or 3 words in the
In the
sentence.
sentence,
So
yes.
I can elicit the meaning. After I read the sentence, if you tell me the meaning, it will be easier. So it's better to give the meaning of the words after, so from the text, elicit the meaning from the text.
So easier is not always better.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
So number 1, Ms. Ola, if you like.
Yes, to defend or support, this is advocate.
Advocate. And advocate can be a noun
and a verb.
can be a verb. When it's a verb, it's advocate.
Pronounced
When it's a
different.
noun, advocate.
We're going to have
That's
such
why
a-
at the beginning, while I was reading, I said it, advocate. I thought it was a noun.
Yeah.
And this problem is because I can't see very well, excuse me. I should fix it in the future to have a bigger laptop maybe,
Yes.
or the show. Maybe it's clear for the students on the screen, but for me in the laptop, they are maybe
Smaller.
punishing
Too
me.
small, too small.
Small. Okay, number 2, Ms. Nagam.
Number 2, the activity of collecting money for a specific purpose, especially in order to help people. Fund. This
Fund.
is fund, yes.
Fund.
Okay, when something existing or accepted in a particular place or at a particular time, this is prevailing.
Yes, existing or accepted in a particular place or at a particular time, it's prevailing. Yes, Ms. Nagam.
Number 4, to select and take or approve. This is adopted
Adopted.
or to adopt.
Or to adopt, yes.
An organization or a group of organizations that work together for a particular purpose, cooperation.
Thank you so much. Cooperation. Now, we continue with vocabulary. We have prefixes.
You have just mentioned an example. No, sorry. That was about the stress.
Yes. We have a prefix. Will you please, Miss Ola, read it?
Yes, with the prefix, it's a letter or a group of letters added to the beginning of a word to make a new word. So it's at the beginning. This is why we call it prefix. When
Thank
it's after that, we call it suffix. But this one is a prefixes. We have they give negative or opposite meaning to the word, like the, this, in, etc. These are the examples we can add to a word. But of course, this is not arbitrary. So we have to choose which word to add.
And we don't stress them. The stress
Yes,
comes
of course.
after them, on the syllable after them.
But here it doesn't mean that prefixes are only to give opposites. We can have other prefixes,
These
but here in
examples.
the examples we have today, they are about only the opposite or the negative meaning of certain words.
Thank you so much for the clarification. Thank you. The following
We
slide,
can
Ms.
have
Nagam,
examples to
Ms. Nagam,
clarify
please
things.
use the
Okay.
word in brackets to complete the sentences. Add the necessary prefix on or this and put the word in the correct form. Number
Okay.
1,
Okay. Children love, we have wrap between brackets. Children love, we need to say wrapping. Parcels at
actually
Christmas
wrapping
time.
is to cover a present.
Yes, yes.
So,
So-
when you want to get into this wrapping to take out, you usually do what do you do?
unwrap.
This
You
wrap,
unwrap.
unwrapping, sorry,
unwrap.
unwrapping parcels at Christmas time. Number 2, I almost find that he has unusual opinions, which means he is very sharp. So I often disagree with him. I'm sure he's lying, but it's going to be hard to, we have a proof, to disprove his story.
Yes. Before we continue, I'm not sure. I think that when we did the first one, we said unwrap. It should be love unwrapping, right?
Yes, unwrapping, of
Unwrapping.
course, because after
Unwrapping.
love we use
I'm not sure.
ing.
I'm not sure, but maybe somebody is following us. He may get confused.
Okay.
So if we
Children
didn't say
love-
it unwrapping, it should
Okay.
be unwrapping.
Unwrapping.
Love unwrapping
Parcels.
parcels.
After a brief speech, the minister, okay,
Unveiled.
unveiled
Unveil the new statue. We have veil to cover and unveil to
Okay,
show
number 5,
under.
it took the removal man an hour to unload our
Unload,
things from the
yes.
van. Number 6, his phone was disconnected because he didn't pay his last bill.
So connect and disconnect.
Disconnect.
Actually, I think most of our students know the meaning of connect and disconnect because
course.
now they can use the mobile phone and the router
They care about the connection.
better than me.
Yes, of course.
We move to the following
To the
slide.
stress with 2 syllables.
Word stress with 2 syllables. Actually, let me say something about the stress. Not always the rule goes with the word. In the past, when we were at university, they taught us that when it is a noun or an adjective, usually the stress is on the first syllable. But when it's a verb, it is on the second if it is a 2-syllable word. But later, we discovered that we have some exceptions.
Of course.
For example, yes, it is on the first syllable when it is advocate. But according to the rule, it should be advocate, since in the verb it should be on the second. But in advocate, the stress in both cases is on the first. Advocate and advocate. Not only this, we have the word comment. Comment, the stress is on the first in both cases.
Whether
I
it's a
say,
verb or a...
I have a comment and I want to comment. So
Yes.
this is also an exception. Direct, adjective and verb are on the second, but perfect, it's on the first. So it's good to say
Something
that
general.
in general the stress in nouns and adjectives
Most. It's
is
better to say most
most
adjectives
of the
or nouns
adjectives,
have
the
the
stress is
stress
on
at
the
on the
beginning,
first
the
syllables
first.
and
verbs
have
on the second, but we have exceptions.
Yes.
Now, Miss Ola, will
Okay.
you please read?
Now, just a quick idea is that we have words, 2-syllable words in English, whose meaning and class change with the change in stress. With these ones, we say that when the stress is on the first syllable, it's usually a noun or an adjective.
So usually does not mean always.
Of course not.
Usually
not.
does not mean always. We have
And if we
exceptions.
stress the second syllable, it's usually a verb.
Okay,
Becomes,
so usually means there are exceptions. We need
again,
to-
Like the
this
word
is
present.
why we advise teachers before students not to follow grammar always. They need to learn
To
the
think.
language through context. Grammar can adjust your language.
Can be tricky.
It does not help you speak if you don't know how to speak. So grammar comes second. It doesn't come first. The following slide is about listen to the teacher saying each sentence, then
These are examples, just examples.
And it's clear, even if we are not listening, it's clear whether it's a noun or a verb from the context itself.
yes, from the context it is
Yes,
clear.
yes.
But let's read them one
Yes,
by
of course,
one,
of course,
and
yes.
let's stress where it should be stressed so
stress
that
syllable,
we show the
yes.
students how to stress the word. We have stress on words and we have stress through the sentence. Usually in English we don't have the same rhythm when we say.
Yes.
We don't say, I'm going to meet my friend in the park.
But, you know,
I'm
sir,
going to meet my friend Nagam in the park. So we usually have something called intonation. We go up and down.
We
We
were
have
asked-
elision in fast spoken English, so most of the pronunciation we teach, they are general pronunciation rules, but in fast spoken English, they may not understand really what the people are saying because things change.
Yeah.
Because things change.
We've been asked before, is it possible to have such an exercise in the exam about stress in the sentence? I'm not sure about it because I know that this depends on what I mean or the purpose of speaking. So do you think, sir, that it's possible to have such an exercise
Yes,
in the
yes, yes. It is possible in the exam to have pronunciation question.
Not pronunciation, about the stress in a sentence.
Yeah.
That was
the
not
question-
in
the
the
rubric-
word, in a
the rubric
sentence.
can be,
Yes.
the rubric in the following word is on the, we write the word and say first, second, both, no stress. We give them 4 choices. the student is going to choose where the stress is. It can
Yes.
be multiple
But
choice.
the point
and
is that sometimes the stress differs from one person to another. So what I want
Depending
to,
on the intention of the speaker.
intention, the purpose of speaking. That's why.
I couldn't follow you. Usually, if we say that the stress, now we are going to bring the question from the book actually for this exercise. We're not going to ask them something. We said the text can be parallel and the composition is going to be parallel. But the use of English is going to be something from
the
what
book.
they took. Maybe not in the baccalaureate, maybe before, maybe in grade
course,
11,
yes.
grade 10.
They are responsible
but
for everything
they should
they
be
have.
familiar how to pronounce the word. So it is possible. It's not impossible. I'm not saying that it is going to come.
No,
Saying
it is possible. It's just
So we have all the
So
choices.
everything in the book is required. So
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Now back to the exercise.
We need to
Okay.
increase our sales. So increase.
Increase.
This is a verb.
Increase. This is a verb and the stress is on.
crease
second.
in the second syllable.
Number 2, Ms. Nagam, if you like
He's
to.
shown an, so we need a noun after it. So an increased interest, sorry, this is an adjective, in the project, because interest is the noun and refers to interest. Increased here is an adjective, so the stress is on the first syllable. Increased
To be
interest.
honest, I'm not sure about this, to be honest. So
Okay.
it's better for the teacher and student to check them in their dictionaries, although I put it according to the book, but I'm not sure. So that if they find it, I'm not saying wrong, I'm saying I'm not sure.
Okay.
Number 3,
To import their goods
they
from the
import
port.
their goods from
This
the
is a
UK.
verb, so the second syllable is stressed. This is a
Okay.
cheap
This exercise is done according to the book, but that's why I mentioned it. Please, dear teachers, please don't teach the language through grammar. Don't say because it is a verb the stress should be on the second. I said comment, the stress is on the first although it's a verb. Direct, it's an adjective, the stress in the second and it is an adjective. So learn. Yes, we may depend on the grammar if we do not know the word earlier or when we are not sure, but it may be right or may be wrong. Don't tell the students, please don't tell the students that if it is a verb, the stress is on the second. If it is a noun, and if this exercise is put in the book to be taught in this way, it is not to the point. We need to teach the students the language as it is. For teachers, check every word. Even if you are sure that you know how to pronounce the word, check every word before you go to the classroom. You will discover that a lot of words you think they are pronounced in a
They
way
might be surprised.
they are. And English language, especially English language, cannot go with the rules always. Some native speakers, they say, you know how crazy English language is. They say it, native speakers. So don't teach the students saying, because it's a verb, it's on the second, because we have exceptions. Yeah, who is going to continue?
Number 3 and 4 are both about import, so Ms. Sola has
Import
started.
and-
Here it's
Import.
import, yeah, import, export
Import.
when they are nouns. Export and import are verbs, yes,
Yes.
these words follow the rule, but the rule not always can be applied
Absolutely.
to the
Okay.
words.
These are examples of the words which the rule applies on.
Yes,
So number 5 and 6, 5, the present city was founded in 1944. Number 6, he's going
here
to
it's written
present.
noun, but it's not a noun. It's,
No, it's an
adjective.
adjective. It's an adjective. That's why I didn't mention it.
Yeah,
This is an
thank you so
adjective.
much.
The refers to the city, and the present here is the adjective. In number 6, he's going to present his friend Mahir, and this is a verb. So
Yeah.
present and present.
Yes.
Number
So,
7, Ms. Rana.
again, our advice to the students and to the teachers, don't always follow the rule, learn the language, and you can answer any question. You can get full marks in English when
Especially
you learn
now.
the language. When you learn the language correctly, yes, now. because there is going to be a parallel.
Multiple choices and parallel from the book.
Some, to be honest, since we have a new exam sample for 5 directorates, 5 provinces, a lot of people say it's not fair to apply the new sample on these 5 provinces, and we leave the other provinces with the old. We're not gods in the end. We're going to improve our language, and when you work, you may get it right, you may get it wrong. We're not only God knows which is the best, but we think the new sample will help the teachers teach the students more properly than the old sample, because now teachers cannot anymore say, if you see this, do this, if you see that, put that. Teachers now need to teach the students the language, and we have 1 whole year. And of course, we are going to take into consideration the level of our students and how to put the exam. It's a promise to put into consideration that this is a new sample and to be fair with the students, but the future for the students is going to be better, because in the past, everyone who is sane knows that students used to get full marks
without learning,
without
real
knowing
learning.
anything about language, and they get the obstacles at university, because at university they will meet English and they know nothing about English except how to do the positive grammar, which is not wanted. We want our teachers to teach the students the language from early stages. When they finish the baccalaureate, they will be learners of the language. Now let's move to grammar. Grammar, we're going to talk about future forms.
And this is for some students a little bit difficult, so we're going to try to make things easier.
We're here to make it easier,
hopefully.
And I think we can make it easier. We're going to start with will and will not. The contraction of will not is won't.
Okay,
and difference between want, would like, and won't, opposite of
They
will.
have to pay attention to the spelling.
Want, first, is longer in pronunciation. Second, want is followed with to or noun, while won't is followed with verb 0, verb infinitive.
Okay. Now in this unit we have 7 ways or types or forms of future. The first one is the easiest one and the most obvious one, we can say that.
And the most important one.
And the most important one, okay.
Because not all these tenses are very important for the students.
Not very
but
used.
they can have a look at them, no problem.
They are not really called forms, but they are used. The first one with will or want, we use will or want with predictions or an immediate decision. When we say prediction, like I think, for example, that one day people will travel to Mars, this is a prediction. I have no evidence, there is nothing to be sure, so I think. This is about a prediction about the future. When we have an immediate decision, like, for example, anything to drink, sir, I'll have a glass of water. This is a decision made at the moment of speaking, so in this case we can use will.
Thank you.
Or want, of course.
Can I add something?
Please.
Do you allow me?
Of course.
Well, we use will and be going to for prediction and for intention. For intention first, let's say, if the decision of doing something is taken at the moment of speaking, we use will.
Yes.
How? When we say the phone is ringing,
I'll answer
when? It's now.
So this is something
and now
that's
I decide to answer.
suddenly.
I will answer. You dropped your pen. Now I say I will pick it up for you. Somebody is knocking at the door. I will open. So it's clear that the decision is made at the moment of speaking.
That's right.
If the decision is planned before, we use going to. I will give the same example for will and for going to. If I'm hungry now, I say, oh, I'm hungry. I will make a sandwich. I took the decision now. I go to the kitchen. Somebody sees me there and asks me, what do you want? There, I will talk about a decision I took before, so I don't say I will, I say I'm going to make a sandwich, although it's maybe after 2 minutes only.
Yes.
But I am talking about a decision made before. Now, sorry.
Don't worry.
Going to and will can be used for prediction. Difference is very easy. If we see something that helps us to predict, we use going to. Look at those dark clouds. It's going to rain. Two people are running, they are not watching carefully. We see them to say they are going to crash. Somebody is looking at his mobile, there is a hole. The person cannot see the hole. We see the hole and we see that he is going to fall.
Usually so it's for the very near future that we have signs and evidence about what's going to happen.
Well, so when we have evidence, because we see, we predict using going to. If it is we think, verbs that go with thinking, I believe, I'm sure, I guess, I think, I expect.
When someone gives his opinion about what will happen, here we
when
use
it comes from the mind,
yes.
because you think, we use will.
Will.
You will be a good student in the future. You may say, because you see, no, I don't see future for this. The future, as you said, it's the near future for prediction. But to make it easier, in the exam, students will be exposed to either something you see and you need to use going to, or the sentence will start with I think, or I guess, yes. or I believe. So
the choices are going to be clear.
This is will.
Well,
we have an evidence or...
We move to the following.
Going to.
I think I covered, sorry, I
to
took your role, because I love these two future cases.
Yes, and it's not a problem. The main idea is that things come clearer for students. That's what we need.
Well, I hope
yes,
people don't hate me because
no, of course not. We are here to cooperate together.
Okay.
So the
present simple.
Okay, present simple. We all know that in general we use the present simple for fixed things that don't change. So for the future, we use the present simple with the future meaning to talk about timetable or schedule. So when we say timetable
Just allow me to say something.
Yes.
You said schedule, it's absolutely correct, but he's American.
Yes, and
in Britain
schedule.
we say schedule.
Schedule, this is British. Okay, so when we say a timetable or a schedule, we mean that this is something fixed, but for the future. So here we use the present simple. For example, the train to the airport leaves in 20 minutes. So this is the timetable of the train, which will not change for personal purposes, for example. This is a public timetable, which is fixed.
And allow me, Ms. Naran, please.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay, of course.
Just, I'm afraid. Of course, we have very strong teachers, and we have new teachers. What I'm going to say now is to new teachers. When we say, when there is a timetable, we use present simple, this doesn't mean that will is wrong and going to is wrong. We can say the train is going to leave in 20 minutes. We can say the train will leave in 20 minutes. But here the possibility is we can use the present simple when we have timetable. We usually use the simple present when we have timetable. But the same sentence can be to give or ask for information. I ask you, when will the train or the plane leave? And you can give me information saying it will leave in 20 minutes.
Yes.
So it's not wrong. We're here to say that we have possibilities. Again, when we are going, the following slide may be about the present continuous.
Yes.
We can use the present, sorry, I'm spoiling the seminar. But sometimes some teachers say it's wrong to use the simple present because it should be going to. Others may say we cannot use be going to because here we have schedule and it should be simple present. It's not wrong. We are here to show that we have possibilities. The present continuous can be used for the future when we have arrangement, but be going to is still working. It's not wrong.
It depends on the intention of the speaker himself. when we use present continuous, we mean something that is
arranged.
Sure,
arranged.
For sure, yeah.
But I will give you an example. Allow me to give you an example.
Of course.
If someone is going to get married, say, I'm going to get married next month.
Yes.
It is next month, but he doesn't know the bride. He didn't prepare for anything. But
Yes.
if he knew the bride and he agreed with her, he arranged with her, he can say,
I'm getting
married next month. But if he still says, I'm going to get married, it's not wrong. But he has the possibility. And for me as a listener, when he uses the present continuous,
we understand
that we have arrangement.
Yes, both are decisions, but when we use present continuous, this is a stronger decision, as you said, with arrangements, and we've done everything we need for that event.
So this is a language, and it depends on the purpose or intention of the speaker, after all.
Thank you. So, would you like to say something, Ms. Naam?
Yes, there is something more here. I think there will be no. We will see. After conjunctions such as when, as soon as, after, before, until, as long as, it's very important to know that you can't use any future form. You need to use the present simple.
Yeah, in this case,
yes.
After these, they are
in the
called,
second clause, of course, we use two clauses with
we call
these
them
words.
time phrases.
Yes.
Time phrases usually start with these words, and usually they should be followed with the simple present only.
Yes.
Yes.
And in the second part, you can use a future, but in
you
the
cannot, yes.
Yes, in the part that is related to these words, you can't use future. You need to use present simple. For example, can you write the report before we hold the meeting? It's wrong to say before we will hold, for example, the meeting. It's wrong to say that.
Thank you for saying it report. Here we have an exception. It's report,
Yes,
noun and verb.
Mm.
This doesn't follow the rule. So please, teachers, don't say because it's a noun, it should be a different.
The rule is not
Learn
final.
the language as it is, then apply grammar on it.
Okay.
Ms. Saula,
Now we move on to the present continuous. We use the present continuous like you have just mentioned when we talk about fixed arrangement for the future. So when we arrange something in the past to do in the future, we use present continuous. Like for example, a bank wrote to Stephen and asked him to start work next week. So everything is ready and arranged. So Stephen is starting a new job next week. Everything is arranged and ready for him to start.
when you say Stephen, he's starting a new job next week, as a listener, I understand that everything is arranged.
It's arranged.
And that's why you're using the present
He can start next week.
continuous. But if you say he is going to start a new job next week,
He may not start. It's possible that
correct.
he may not start.
It's correct. It's not wrong.
With different meaning.
Yes.
And questions in the exam should be like this. Students are not going to have two correct answers to choose between them. It should be one choice correct and three choices that are not okay. So don't be afraid, don't worry, we're going to take care of this. Number 5, we have Ms. Nagam, please.
Okay, this is when you are about to do something. We use about to talk about something likely to happen, but here in the immediate future, which is very soon to happen. For example, I'm about to go to Rome for a conference. It means I will be leaving soon, so here it's better to say I'm about to go to Rome, but it's not wrong to say I'm going to go to Rome. It's not also wrong to say I'm going to Rome for a
so much for
conference.
saying this.
It's wrong. It's not wrong, but it depends on when. So when you use I'm about to go to Rome, this is the message I want the listener to know, is that this is coming very soon.
Thank you so much. They asked me to wrap up. I hope our students got benefit from what we presented. In the end, I want to thank my colleagues in the studio, Ms. Ula Al-Mu'i,
Thank you, sir.
English Language Supervisor, Tartus Directorate, and Ms. Nagam Al-Muhammad, English Language Teacher, Tartus Directorate.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you do well in everything. This is Abdul Majid Ogorli, English Language Senior Supervisor and Coordinator of English Language. Wishing you good luck. Thank you for being with us, and bye-bye.